You're live.
All right, I call the meeting to order.
Bob.
So
All right, you ready for roll call?
on that note, I call the meeting to order. Becky, you want to do roll call?
Sure. Bob Olson.
Here.
John Nicholson.
Yes.
Mike Copine.
Yes.
Jim Sheeline.
Here.
Chris Norberg.
Here.
Marilyn Shippert.
Present.
Tom Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll go to public attendees. Anybody want to talk?
Courtney?
Courtney?
Morning, everyone. I apologize for everybody who's got to listen to this again.
I don't know if your mic's on.
Oh, there we go.
She's just on the turn.
My name's Courtney Kennedy. I'm here on behalf of One Energy Development LLC. We appeared back in October before the Zoning Board of Appeals went through the zoning process for a 4-megawatt community solar located in Franklin Grove Township. It will be on your agenda this month to vote on, and I'm just here to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Any questions? Comments? Thank you.
Thanks.
Paul, Nancy, anybody? Nothing? All right. We'll move down to the approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at them? Is there any corrections? Any corrections on the minutes? If none, we'll let them stand as read. We'll go to reports of committee chairs. We'll start with Mr. Feline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee just completed its meeting a few minutes ago. We have the final cleanups of both the 2022 fiscal year and also the final budget adjustments for 2023. And they're actually in the resource folder. If you want to go through those, we had the audit review, acceptance from the 2021 audit. Just as a reminder to everybody, that was a clean audit. And Paul said that folks are coming in next week to start on this year's audit. So the never ending. Correct. So then on the year end, on 2022 year end budget adjustments, the Finance Committee approved 4 things that's like I said, is there in the resource. I don't think you want me to go through each of those. You can review those unless there's questions. The year-end budget adjustments that require board approval that was recommended to come to executive were 3 items, and that's in the Sheriff's Department personnel line item, the contingency line item, and that's it. The Health Department transfer request was withdrawn. So if there's any questions on what will go to the full board? Okay. Hearing none. Then we had approved for executive, the City of Dixon intergovernmental agreement for police, and appreciate the work that John and Paul and Bob did on that. Great improvement over the agreement that we had with the city, in prior. And the main item there was going from a percentage rather than a CPI adjustment on a year basis. So anyway, very positive on that. And we had City of Dixon, okay, that's it. Sheriff's request for rifle-rated ballistic panels was approved. A drone replacement for Kevin's office was approved, and we did have an executive session, but no recommendation came out of the executive session. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. We'll move to Mr. Copine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety met yesterday in this room. Last month's meeting minutes were approved without any modification. There were no public visitors available that requested to speak, so we continued on with the department head reports. those minutes or details will be in the report that we file later. Quarterly update on abandoned properties. There's a property in, excuse me, in Compton that, a house that had burnt. That process of cleaning that property up has begun. The house has been leveled, ground's been leveled, and there's dirt there to cover over the rest of the thing, and then it'll come back apparently to the county for a decision as to what the next step will be. So that continues on as far as abandoned properties and everything. The only other thing of importance was the dispatching agreement between Sheriff's Department and the Dixon City Police Department. The public safety agreed with that agreement and forwarded it on to this committee. So we had nothing for executive session, and adjournment was within 40 minutes after the meeting. If I can answer any questions, I'll be glad to.
Yeah, I've got one comment. Do you have a picture of that you could pull up on the Compton?
You want to see the original house or you want to see it all cleared?
All cleared up. I just wanted, it's all done. I went over and took pictures of it. It looks good. I didn't know if you could show us that.
I will. I'll pull that up while you're carrying on with your committee reports, okay?
All right. So anyhow, what do we do with that property? Take bids on it? We need to open it up, or how do we proceed with that?
You don't want to maintain it.
No.
It's a vacant lot now.
Yes.
Sell it, there's two neighbors, sell it to one or the other. I mean.
Turn your mic on. Not you, him. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tom. Yeah, turn the mic on.
Go ahead.
Well, that's the way I feel about it. We got to get rid of it. We can't give it away. I don't think we can we, Charlie? We can't just give it away. We got to put it out for bids. Right.
Well, there's clear statute on disposition of
Yeah,
excess property.
right.
And I think sealed bids is.
Sealed
is
bids,
the- Is that defined in the statute or? Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
That was kind of the direction I thought we
As long
should
as
go.
Wendy agrees, we're good.
That was kind of the direction I thought we should go. I just needed a head nod that I am authorized to start pursuing that.
So what happens when nobody bids on it?
That is a
do we
good
maintain
question.
it for
Then
the
I'm
rest of
coming
our-
back to you, Tom, and saying, well, what do you want to do now?
Don't know.
Well, but but I'll tell you what, but if you've done that process though, Tom, I think everybody would feel better. I know I would feel better, in giving it away if we've actually tried and failed at having somebody bid on it. So
Somebody ought to bid $10. I mean, there,
Yeah.
lots in Compton aren't really.
Somebody will bid on it. I'll make sure of it. But anyhow.
that's a little hard.
Yeah. No, I'm not bidding on. So let's talk about the process so we can have her go ahead with it. Do we post it on our website, the newspaper? How do we want to do it? And make sure.
Costs us more to advertise in the newspaper than we get out of it. So
But another thing is, we need to do it before spring, and have it done before the weeds start growing.
So we're going to have a board turnover. I want to give her the direction today if we can, then we could go forward with that.
So I'm not clear myself. Do I have to advertise it in the newspaper? I need to research that law actually to follow up with that. But I think what I would be looking for is just your direction to follow the law and proceed with.
you have to advertise it in at least what, 2 or 3 social, like newspapers, not necessarily Dixon's, but like my wife will advertise stuff in like the Earlville paper or the Rochelle News Leader. They're substantially cheaper than Dixon paper.
Yeah, I think we give Wendy the go-ahead with the plan, maybe come back next month with how you're going to proceed, and we'll decide from there, I guess. Is that-
There had been an interest made. Steve Gilmore, who's on the 911
Yeah,
board,
he
had
talked
made
about it.
comment to me that there's a gentleman that had expressed an interest. How far after the demolition and everything has been done, I don't know, but I'll see if I can get a hold of it. Did you talk to Steve?
I talked to Steve too, yeah. And that's,
Maybe it can happen before we have to go through some of this stuff, so.
Marilyn, did Shaw send in a bill yet for an invoice? Did we pay him? There's the property right there.
No, I don't believe we have seen anything. That's the cleared property. If you hadn't seen a picture, Mike brought me some. I'll show you the other one.
I think we have to put it out for sealed bids. I don't think we can get away from. Can't just call up Joe Blow at Steve Gilmore's
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. And Shaw would have done a good job.
Wow. I think we're gonna have 15,000 basically in what we did, is where I was going with
Yeah,
that.
the demolition was 14,000 plus we had to pay asbestos abatement, et cetera. So yeah.
You never get that out of it.
No, but look at, I mean, we got rid of that.
We made something good out of something bad.
I think we need to keep working on these properties.
There were a lot of happy people. Steve told me they were very pleased with what happened over there. So,
Well, that, well, I would think that there would be neighbors that would be interested in controlling that property.
and I think that's who's
Yeah.
tentatively interested in it. We just need to find.
I'll work with Wendy and Charlie and we'll
Guy
come
to
up
the
with a
left, guy to the
plan.
left's a little marginal maintenance wise, but the guy to the right does a good job.
Charlie, you know if in statute there's requirements on publication?
I don't know off the top of my head. I have to take a look at it.
Do we want to put this on the agenda? I know we're not to that part in our agenda for next Tuesday and give her the go-ahead, or how do we want to do this?
Get a paper trail of some sort, that would do it.
You know, we need to move on it
Oh,
as fast as
quickly
we
as
can.
Sure.
You know, if Charlie and Wendy can come up with a plan, you know, I think it's gonna have to be publicized somewhere, somehow.
Yep.
And I would think you would want to, even if the statute doesn't call for it, just because you want to make sure you didn't get anybody that comes back and says, well, why didn't I know about that? So we do need to do some sort of public notice. How about if I do follow up on and get some more information together, if you want to put it on the, are you talking about the full board agenda
Yeah,
then for
let's put
next
it on the
week?
full board agenda and then we can
Okay.
always table it if we're not comfortable.
So what are we gonna call that?
Uh, Abandoned property in Compton sale.
I'll look up the title because what I might do is cite
Yeah,
cite the statute of, that allows us to dispose of it or sell it. So I'll look that up, Becky, and get back to you.
Sounds good.
Disposal of property, Compton property or whatever.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
all right.
Maybe Mr. Zollinger could add some input there too, since he's doing the paperwork on most of these.
Yeah.
Give us some direction on how to quickly dispose of it.
And we took possession of the mobile home, in Dixon, right? With what we're doing here. And I signed a thing with Sterling, what's her name, Vonda, to inspect the asbestos. So I just signed that this morning, so we'll start that.
I left out a short, Wendy brought it up yesterday, and I suggested, or asked rather, to develop a procedure to determine if a property is ready to go up for a tax sale, you know, real estate tax sale or whatever the case may be, and then put a sequence of events of what the next step should be or is recommended to be, similar to what Dee did out of zoning.
I think that's a good idea.
Somebody else, so we can tell them where we're at.
Right, and then Wendy, you highlighted on that too, as far as, and I don't remember what the part of it was as far as,
Well, I said we're in a bit of a lame duck session right now because we don't know leadership and how we're going to go forward with this because the next board chairman, whoever that may be, actually could, assign a couple representatives for me to work with on the board and, to follow through.
Right.
So until I know exactly what that structure is going to look like, I kind of punted, Mike. That's what I did.
Yeah, I think
Hey, I will tell you that up here on the screen is a picture I just received this morning. Greg Saunders went out and took a picture. This is the 4th Street property that we're next on our list. We've got that Bob was just referring to. He signed asbestos testing or inspection, I should say, to take care of that one. And then hopefully we're going to be demolishing that one next. As of right now today, without outstanding attorney fees that may be involved, we have spent of the 100,000, about $20,000 on mitigating what we've done so far. So that does not include what we'll do on this one. And then, like Mike said, it's totally on my radar to come up with a structure and a process, but I kind of want to see what the next board chairman would like in terms of who we would work with on that. So
Wendy, when you say legal fees, did you include the property in Compton? Because somewhere along the line, I saw an invoice on that.
yes. So yes, a special, I'm not sure the term, special prosecutor, Tim Zollinger is working on this for us. So we've been paying the legal fees out of that as well. So I know he's working on other projects, so he probably has some outstanding fees that we aren't aware of yet. But as of today, we've got about 20,000 spent. So we got 80,000 remaining to continue to tackle issues. And of course, there are I'm being told there are some real opportunities when it comes to grants and some of the bigger projects. That is going to be a big part of the next steps to deal with the other larger properties that are on our radar that we simply don't have the money to be demolishing or doing the asbestos abatement that needs to be done. So anyway, I'm looking for a team to work with going forward to figure out what that strategy is going to be.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
More comments, questions? Marilyn, you want to?
Claims is rolling along smooth.
Microphone.
Claims is rolling along smooth. I think that was one of the a very positive thing that we've done with that. We got a little bit of a snafu between you and I on paid vacation, but I'm going to be.
That must be fixed though by now because I approved the one yesterday and it didn't go back to you, did it?
It did.
So it's not quite fixed.
So that's where it's at then.
Yes. So Wendy called me or sent me I don't know. Anyway, I approved it because I knew you'd seen it. I'd seen it. So
Yep, okay.
And it'll be cut today. It's been moved on.
And it's still.
you'll have a new claims chair to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, we need to get it fixed, so thank you. Any questions for Marilyn? Mr. Norberg?
As servicemen on Monday, the one thing that was discussed was meeting dates. I know in the past we've done part in the evenings and part during the day. Last 2 years, I believe it's all been in the evening. So that'll be determined at the next ad service or their recommendation for the new board to decide on. That's it.
Questions, comments? Thank you for everything you did with Ed Thursdays. Mr. Wilson?
Properties met on Tuesday. Greg Saunders was on vacation the previous week. It was his first day back, but there wasn't a whole lot of activity in properties. We've got an ongoing situation downstairs in the election office that we're working on. Other than that, the other projects are basically waiting for the next board or properties chair to take over from there, but everything went well.
All right. Any comments, questions? Thanks, Tom. I guess, got a report to give.
We
so-
got to talk about the abandoned properties.
Yeah.
Didn't have any Black Hawk Hills or anything like that.
What about 251 and 30? Where is that with that?
Our attorney is pursuing that. There's notification processes that have to take place, and he's having trouble serving the correct owners, but he's working on it.
Thank you. All right. We're on to old business. We have none. New business, we have the City of Dixon intergovernmental agreement for police dispatching, 911 agreement. So Charlie left. Do you have the new one up here?
Charlie had a family emergency. He apologized. He took out. Becky's about to bring up the red-lined agreement with the city.
So this, we've been negotiating this for 4 or 5 months. Seems like 4 or 5 years. And I think this is our final draft. Tom, help me out. So Rob Lesarge wrote this and then.
Who's sitting in the back of the room, by the way. He snuck in on you.
And looking forward to talking about the 911.
Good. I'll let Rob take it from here.
I didn't know this was on the agenda. I'm here to be with Greg. The only thing that I would add, Mr. Chairman, is that, you're correct. This has been an agreement that it really has been in place for quite some time with amendments from time to time based upon the payment calculation. And I was not part of the city team that was meeting, Bob, with you and I think with the state's attorney. So the drafting that I did was based upon Danny's relaying of the discussion. And I know that the agreement, again, it was generated in our office. We worked substantially off of the prior form. And it was circulated to the state's attorney's office. And I believe it's been signed off in terms of the language.
So I did get just something just this morning, as a matter of fact,
Yes.
with some couple of minor edits. So Rob, before you leave today, if I could just chat with you real quick about that.
Yeah, sure.
That would be great. Otherwise, yeah, this represents, with the exception of the Assistant State's Attorney Stephanie's comments, this represents where we're at.
Okay.
And I think the city council is going to vote on it.
Yeah, it's going to be on the agenda for Monday night. So if
Okay.
there's any changes, I can certainly look at those and we can process them over at City Hall and make sure we're all working off of the same instrument.
That's what I want to make sure of.
So before we just went off of CPI every year, or there was a 2 or 3% raise, here we're actually going off of actual cost, what it costs to run it, and we're dividing it out by a number. So I think it's good for the city and good for the county. Do you agree, Rob?
Yeah, we feel pretty beat up, but yeah, that's a good sign.
That was
This is the
because
way
we
we've
had
been
such a
trying to
great
get it
deal
done.
before.
That's good negotiations when the other side feels beat up.
I think that's the way we've been trying to get it done for 20 some odd years, Rob. Never quite flew.
This is the point where I always remind everybody the definition of a compromise is where everybody walks away from the table and nobody's happy.
Well, and for those of you that know me, it's probably a good idea Danny didn't have me at the table. So it made everything a lot easier. Future direction for city council, county negotiations, leave Lesage at home.
All right, so I guess we're going to put that on the agenda. Of course, we don't need to approve it here. Is there any questions or comments about it?
I will add just one thing. It did come out of public safety with approval, as Mike, I believe, noted, and it also came out of finance committee with approval, as Jim noted, so.
Good, that's good to hear. What's the term for it, Rob? Is it 6 years?
Yes.
Bob, I remember we had added a year because I think originally it was one term and then we had one added, and I just don't remember off the top of my head what that number is, but I think it's 6 or 7.
Yeah, I went and looked at it and I believe it to be 6 this morning because that came out, there was a question out of finance as far as the term, so.
Yeah, the second draft, that was one of the changes that we made. We added that extra year.
Our only question is, we had some comments, me and Tom, and I don't want to rehash this, but we didn't want to do anything over 4 years because our terms are 4-year terms here, and we're using that as a guide. What's your guys' thoughts? I know Dixon wants 6, so they wanted 10 to start out with, so.
I think you're pushing up against the goal line. I
Yeah.
think you sign the 6th year and you move on and
Yep.
get something in place sooner than
Together
later.
on it and everybody benefited from it, Rob.
Well, I
That's what we've been
think what
trying.
you've got in place, in my view, Rob, the old agreement, there was a disincentive from the county perspective. If there was needing to be personnel changes or addition, there wasn't a lot of room for the county to do much.
I mean, I
This
think.
new agreement, we're sharing the cost.
And that's the substantial change. I mean,
Absolutely.
if I was going to sit and try to argue for a longer term, it would be that the formatting of the agreement has changed in order to essentially account for those kinds of changes you're talking about, Jim.
Sure.
So the fundamental mechanism, the way you look at the agreement, it shifted. It just shifted from a dollar amount plus CPI to actually looking at what's happening at Lee County.
Yeah. And our
And,
needs.
and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you agree with that paradigm, it could be 6 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, because that's the way of looking at the deal in a way that's even-handed for both sides.
Right.
I mean, if the county thinks that isn't the appropriate paradigm, sure, we can roll up our sleeves and we can haggle about this thing again in 4 years, but everything's going to be on the table again.
So for your question, Mr. Chairman, I would agree with the 6-year term.
Yeah, all right.
Is there an opportunity in this for either side to request a reopener?
I'll refer that to Rob.
Again, I have to be honest, I didn't come here prepared to talk about the agreement. I drafted this about a month ago. I don't have it in front of me. So I mean, I've drafted 50 agreements since I prepared this. I don't remember exactly what we had in there for a reason.
I don't know if it's necessary or not. It's just
I don't
seem to
think
follow
that-
with the discussion.
Yeah, I don't think there's an opening in there. I think we're locked in. the way I interpreted it, but
So I looked this over and I was reading it in finance this morning and I think it's probably the best agreement that we've had forever. I mean, going way back to Jim Seberg, we were trying to get it at cost and sharing rather than a flat amount, and it finally got done. So
Well, I still think we give Dixon the advantage. We left a lot of money on the table, I feel like, so.
Yeah, we did. Oh, God, we left a lot.
All right, we'll move on.
Final jab.
Yes, yes. Gotta get one in there.
And this is my first exec committee meeting. I might forget the address.
You might be able to walk out when you're done.
All right, we'll move down to appointments. We got appointment of resolution of solid waste coordinator. That'd be David Anderson. We don't need a vote on that. We'll put that on the agenda. The raffle report, we've got the VFW Queen of Hearts, the Booze Barrel raffle, and the VFW raffle.
Well, that's supposed to be pistol wrath. Obviously, I can't spell.
Pistol raffle.
Pistol.
I see they give away pistols. Do we need approval on this?
We need a motion to put them on file, correct?
Yep, that's all you're doing is putting them on file.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Mr. Copine seconds it. All those in favor to put this on file, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
If I could back up for just 1 second, Bob, on the appointment of the solid waste coordinator. You may all remember this because we got mostly seasoned veterans sitting at this table, but a few years ago, it was negotiated with Dave Anderson that he take on the responsibilities of solid waste coordinator without any additional salary other than what you pay him for the being the highway engineer. So I just thought that was worth noting that this continued resolution does not call for any additional compensation other than the salary he already receives.
All right. Thank you. We'll move down to the review of per diem report for the County Board of Approval. Everybody get a chance to look at that? There's no action on that?
We just put it on the full board agenda.
All right. Any questions, comments on it? Move on. We have no executive session. So now we'll start the county board agenda. The normal A, B, and C, D, E. Then we got the Joseph Meyer resolutions.
We don't have any of this one.
We don't have any, so we can take that off.
Well, we leave it on there. We just put it on.
All right.
We leave it on as placeholder.
All right. Okay. Zoning and planning. That's the report, the monthly reports and minutes. Yep. Petitions, looks like we've got one special use outdoor storage in the Lee Center. Have that on the agenda. Petitions going to the Planning Commission are none. Petitions coming from the Zoning Board of Appeals, we have A and B. We'll put them both on the agenda. Petitions coming from the planning, none. Administrator monthly update, we'll surely have that. Public comments, county organizations, reports of committee, unfinished business. I kind of like the term of that. We've got the resolution authorizing the creation of the mass transit and the MOU. We got all three of them, and then the board of trustees that we're gonna put them. Did they three fill out the
They
report?
did. That'll be in your packet. Yes, they did.
Okay. Like Greg and Rob are here, Ogle County approved it unanimously. Tuesday night?
Tuesday night.
Yay.
Yeah, and I, Bob, I really appreciated you coming up to the Ogle County exec meeting. I think your presence there, along with Charlie, helped kind of push them over the top in terms of, realizing this is something that needed attention and that, that they wanted to move forward. There were a couple questions asked at the county board meeting, just of a very general nature. The conversation is very supportive, and once it makes it through the Lee County process, hopefully, we anticipate working with Charlie and his team, to work on that definitive agreement that really spells out sort of what the closing mechanism is going to look like. And, I know in the future, Greg will also be talking with you about the board members for the mass transit district, because that's something that will also need to be approved by the county.
What's this do to your time frame now? Where are we at time frame to close this out?
We haven't been able to refine that yet. We have some conversations that'll need to take place with IDOT in terms of, whether they're going to be in a position to facilitate this happening. I think what is about April would be our drop dead date for the actual transfer of assets for this year, or excuse me, for next year. And, but Greg's had some conversations with IDOT, and Greg, feel free to interject, but my understanding is that, IDOT is very much on board, and, for purposes of the 2023 grant, they may be in a position to essentially have it be a pass-through from Lee County to the Mass Transit District in the event we aren't able to actually have the grant in the Mass Transit District's name by that timing. But we're gonna, again, some of this, Bob, is gonna be dependent on how quickly we can get through the drafting process, with your team and with Ogle County's team. Working with Lee County has been fabulous. Working with Ogle County, it's just taken more time. And we're hoping that the recent actions are suggestive that they're motivated and that they're going to review documents quickly, have reasonable comments to them, and put us in a position where everybody can move forward hand in hand quickly. And that may yet facilitate, the grant application being done in the name of the Mass Transit District.
Thank you. We're getting our money's worth out of you today.
Anything else on the agenda?
Now we're gonna drive this home. The resolution, do you want to share with the executive team here, what we did different to?
Yeah, sure, Bob.
All right.
So there were two key issues that were raised by Ogle County on the documentation. And it's in connection with powers that are granted to mass transit districts under the Illinois Mass Transit District statute. And frankly, mass transit districts are very similar to a lot of taxing bodies in terms of powers that they can exercise, the power to enter into contracts, the power to hire employees. But similar to municipalities, similar to counties, the statute also has discussion about it levying taxes and exercising the power of eminent domain. And the folks in Ogle County, notwithstanding the fact that those processes and the ability to exercise them are very difficult under the Mass Transit Act, they were very concerned that sort of the stars could align in a negative way and that the Mass Transit District is going to start taxing. And that certainly is not the intention. And we revised both the resolution and the MOU to provide probably over the top in terms of beating the concept into the ground that the Mass Transit District will not be levying taxes and acting as a taxing district, and that it will not exercise the power of eminent domain. And we made those provisions separately enforceable by each of the counties so that they had an appropriate assurance that those concerns were being addressed.
Any questions about that? Comments?
So we're ready to move forward with all three of the things
Yep.
that was tabled. And so that we'll be bringing them off the table and
Yep.
for full board approval next week.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah, and Jim, that really, from our perspective, that's sort of, the jumping off the cliff moment. We go from both counties agreeing to the concept in general, which we really needed, to getting into the actual, what's the process going to be? What's the ultimate document going to look like? So, it's kind of going to be more for the eggheads like me over the next several months. So there will be future actions. You will have to approve that final agreement. You will ultimately have to approve board members. But particularly from Ogle County, getting them to sign off without opposition lets us know that it's, time to move into that mode.
Well, I remember 4 years ago, when I started talking about this with Greg, and we've come a long ways, and Greg, appreciate, your ability to get us to this point. And Rob, I appreciate
Yeah.
your participation in getting this done, because it's complicated and a lot of moving parts, but at the same time, it's
Yeah, and
very
again,
necessary for us to get to this point.
and in case our friends in Ogle County are watching the meeting today, I think it's important to note that, you know, they switched gears here, and now that they're really engaged, it was good working with them, and they want to move forward.
Yep, appreciate that. Yeah, because if we didn't have them, this wouldn't be moving forward.
Right.
So,
Mr. Chair, just a quick follow-up question for Rob. A couple different times here, you've referred to the board members for the Reagan Mass Transit District. So we have on the agenda the appointment of the 3 from Lee County. Are we jumping the gun on that?
You know, from our perspective, if Lee County is ready, we're ready as well.
Okay.
Wendy, we've just sort of been in the mode of not wanting, to push too hard, on the process, because, the feeling has been that Lee County is ready to roll. Ogle County, the train hadn't quite left the building yet.
Well, we've had those 3 names out there and that's been tabled, and I would, unless you see an issue, I say we move forward and we get at least our part done.
Yes, go for it.
Okay.
We'd love you to do it. We just have sort of been, we've been restraining sort of what we've been asking for, just because we didn't want to get too far ahead of Ogle County. But now that they passed the resolution, I think Lee County moving forward shows how motivated you guys are to make it happen.
Okay, sounds good.
The only issue with naming them now, and I don't know what's the chances this happens, so Lee County gets 3 spots on the board and Ogle gets 2, and that's due to ridership that goes over 50%. The county gets 3 to 2. If this takes a year down the road, is the ridership going to change where we got 3 appointed and there's only 2 spots, or do we even have to worry about that?
I think that from the perspective of the creation of the Mass Transit District, that's a separate issue from when the assets of the current lots get transferred to the Mass Transit District.
That's true.
So when both of those resolutions are passed, Bob, the next action is we send copies of the signed resolutions down to the state of Illinois. And at that point, the Mass Transit District can be up and running. Now, for now, up and running really just means it's doing some administrative things. It certainly isn't operating lots until we do that transfer of assets in the future. So if we create it now, which we're doing, if we appoint the board members now or in the very near future, that's who we're going to run with, for the start of the organization, and they'll be in place when the asset transfer happens.
I think we go ahead and do it then. Thank you, Rob.
Yep.
Any questions, comments? We'll move on. All right. The fiscal year 2023 levy ordinance, that was held over. That'll be on there. The budget was held over in October. That'll be on there. Tax amendment ordinance regulating wind energy, that was held over. And the solar, be glad to get them voted in. New business, 2022 year-end budget adjustments. The city of Dixon intergovernment agreement. ARPA capital requests.
I'm not sure we need that, because those were budgeted items and they were taken care of. So that
I
can
think
come off.
we could pull that off there. The Lowell Park.
So I'm sorry, take 3 off, Bob?
Yep, sorry. Lowell Park speed zone ordinance, are we ready? Did we held that over, or where we at with that?
That came out of transportation, so yes, they're looking for us to put it on the full board agenda and then hold it over.
Okay. Zoning Board of Appeals, meeting date resolution, the UAS drone replacement, the sheriff's request for the 32 rifle rated ballistic panels.
So that actually it can be removed also after some discussion at finance. John decided that he had money within his own budget this year, so we're going to be removing that one. So Nancy, that's the number 7 can be removed from the agenda also.
Thank you. And then one other thing, do we need to put under new business anything about the audit?
We do not. According to your policy, the finance committee has to accept the audit. does not have to be accepted by the full board. I mean, I can certainly put it out there if you want, but it's not logistically necessary.
Thank you.
So then we go to appointments. We got the Dave Anderson appointment of solid waste coordinator. Executive session, leave that on there. Approval, P and Q, R, S. I think we can put the rest of them on there.
You
Everybody-
told me to remind you about,
Okay, let's prove this, but thank you though. Thank you. So I need a motion to approve the agenda for next Tuesday night.
I'm sorry, Bob, one more thing.
Yes.
Did you want to put something on there about the abandoned property
Oh, yeah.
under new or old business?
Yes, I'd do that on new business. Thank you. Jesus, 5 minutes going.
And Nancy, again, I'll get you the exact terminology.
Thank you.
What we're going to call it.
Anything come out of finance this morning that we need to put on there?
I think, I don't see anything.
Okay.
missed. I think we're good.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda then. Mr. Copine moves. Second. Ms. Shippert seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. One thing I want to talk about is a grant with the city of Dixon and Main Street. They've got a grant available that they're actually going to write for us. And the county's got to put in 50,000 to get 100,000. And Dixon's going to do the same. It's going to be a joint venture. And I just want to take your temperature and see if everybody's all right, if we can follow through and go with that.
Absolutely.
To reinvent the tourism, and it's going to be a digital type thing, and we can only use the money for tourism dollars, but it can't be spent for employees or anything like that. It's got to be spent for what they're going to do.
Over the course of years, print advertising and print booklets and stuff have kind of antiquated themselves. Everything's being pushed digital, but that requires time and investment to bring that up to speed. You have to hire people to do that for you. And so that's what this will go for. And it's well worth the money. It's very simple. Everybody's going to their phones. You get QR codes, you get coordinates and all this other stuff. It's driven to a laptop, to our website. We've just redesigned our entire website with the help of the ARPA money. And now the next step is to get this.
So I've been
down.
talking to Jeremy England, and he's the one that's actually going to write the
Yep.
grant. He wants to do it by next month. And it's awarded in January, I think, or February. I just will bring this through committee, but I just want to feel if we're going the right direction, if everybody's comfortable with that, we'll move forward.
Absolutely.
Marilyn and I don't count. It'll be past us.
Yeah, we won't be here in the.
All right, well, thank you. Before we adjourn, I want to thank everybody for working the last 2 years. You made my job easier, and thank you for everything you guys brought to the table. So,
Thank you for your
yeah,
leadership.
no, but thank you.
And I want to make a comment too, that this is my last regularly scheduled committee meeting. I've still got a board meeting to go, and I'll probably be at the December 5th meeting, but I want to thank everybody, executive committee, everybody. I'm going to try to do this at the board meeting too. Just thank everybody for past and previous help, and makes a lot of difference when you got a willing partner, so to speak. So, not always willing, but most.
And I would echo pretty much what John said, because this is my last go around, except I will have a claims committee meeting after board. I got one more.
Good.
But, 18 years is a long time, and I'm ready to hang it up.
Oh.
But it's been a good ride.
Well, and in the 2 years, we got a lot done. So, thank you. Yes.
I hate to interrupt this thought because I love the appreciation being shared by everybody, but I have a couple business things to go back to.
Well, I love doing that, Jared.
Yes, I know. I love it. I hate to interrupt it, but just two things I did want to remind you about. At 5:30 next Tuesday is our truth and taxation hearing. So I need all the board members to come at 5:30 or preferably a few minutes before 5:30. By statute, we have to have a separate meeting to have the truth and taxation hearing. So we will flow from that meeting, adjourn the truth and taxation, and then flow into your 6 p.m. board meeting. So please mark your calendars for that. Becky and I will probably, or one of us will send out a reminder email because I know that's out of the norm, but Please show up for that. And then to my board members that will be returning, I did send out an email to all of you asking that, giving you a heads up on the December 5th date that John just referred to. That's the organizational meeting where the chair and vice chair will be elected. And we've got some other things on the agenda, including swearing in all of the new board members. So put that on your schedule as well. And attached to that email was a questionnaire. I am asking for you to complete and return the questionnaire to me. That questionnaire will be available to any board member that wishes to run for chair. That will help them make committee assignments. So please, even though you're a seasoned veteran, turn that back into me so that it can be available for anybody interested in that position. And Tom is shaking his head. I will hunt you down. I know where you live. That is all I have, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments?
Can Tom share what happened down there because he was laughing
Yes.
hysterically?
Tom, you want to share with us?
Yeah.
I apologize, but I went to turn and put my foot up and I hit John's chair. Yeah.
That's why I was laughing.
And John just went,
I went from short to nothing.
and all I saw was John's head above the table. I'm like, it was just.
They do go way down, Wendy.
He goes, I'm already short. Why do you have to make me short?
Yeah. And I'm thinking,
But I
what
didn't.
just happened?
And I thought these new chairs were going to be safe.
No.
5 seconds.
And it's on video, so you gotta go back and look.
Oh, you gotta see
John
it.
just-
Did you see it?
He's like me, he
I
likes to prop his feet up on things, and he found the one thing in the courtroom that made me even shorter.
So I apologize.
You might want to test the chair because mine did it just leaning back and trips the lever by
I'll
itself.
have to remember that trick.
Yeah. I want to minimize something, go right ahead.
I'd entertain, are we done? We got a motion to adjourn? Second, Mr. Copine seconds it. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.